Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland. Here I am in York, and behind me is York Minster. So it is a cathedral. I do not know why it's called a minster rather than a cathedral. So it is the second largest place of worship in the British Isles, and York itself is a very significant city. For centuries it was the second largest city in England, well, and indeed the British Isles. Moreover, it was the capital of northern England. So this city of York gives its name to Yorkshire, which is the largest county in England. Largest in terms of land, not in population. So Yorkshire was so big that it was subdivided into 4 ridings, as in big enough to ride across in one day: North, South, East and West Yorkshire. However, East Yorkshire's commonly called Humberside because the River Humber flows through it. So the city of York goes back to Roman times at least. It was known as Iberacum in the times of the ancient Romans, and indeed a Roman emperor, Constantine the Great, was proclaimed here. That was before the Roman Empire was divided, so he ruled from here all the way up to and including what's now Iraq. Quite astonishing. Anyway, the Romans left and the Dark Ages followed. The Roman Forum and so on fell into disrepair. Then came the Danes and the Vikings. Vikings more from Norway. One couldn't strictly distinguish between Danes, Swedes and Norwegians in those days, and they called the city Jorvik, and there's Jorvik Viking Centre which you can visit, and so a lot of people here were of Danish, Norwegian descent. Northern and Eastern England was the Danelaw in the 9th century, 10th century and so forth. Other significant events in the life of the city have been the landing in 1066 of King Harald Hardrada of Denmark and Norway. Is that sobriquet Hardrada can mean hard won, or indeed hard reign, like ruling. And with Tostig Godwinson, the half-brother of the King of England, Harald Godwinson, estranged half-brother. He'd been driven out of wherever he was ruling. I can't think, it's around Coventry, for excessive taxation and being an ineffective military ruler. Anyway, there was a battle here against the Northern English Earls and the Norwegians and Tostig. They took the city of York. They'd fought the Battle of Fulford Gate, and then Harold Godwinson hurried up here, and just south of here he fought the Battle of Stamford Bridge. The Vikings had foolishly divided their forces, some of them at Stamford Bridge just south of York, and some of them at Rickle, several miles away, with their ships on the River Great Ouse, because the river in York became too narrow, too shallow. They couldn't sail their long ships all the way up into York. And so that's where defeated. I could tell the whole story of the Battle of Stamford Bridge some other time. So York is very much worth visiting, and particularly York Minster behind me. It's an architectural gem, I think you'll agree, and it stood there in some form for well over 1,000 years. There was a terrible fire in the late 1980s, and a great deal of refurbishment was done here. I visited York as a tot, but the first time I remember visiting was 1993 on a school trip, and the cathedral had been put back together, or the minster had been put back together. Well, there were battles fought around here during the Wars of the Roses. That's the late 15th century. Won't go into all of those. And in the English Civil War, it was very important. So Northern and Western England were largely royalist, taking the side of King Charles I, against Southern and Eastern England, which were principally parliamentarian. And so the city of York was held by royalists, besieged by the parliamentarians under Sir Thomas Fairfax, the son of a Yorkshire peer. And then there was a battle of, oh my goodness, where was it? I forget the name of it. It's not Ilkley Moor, and Marston Moor, that's it, a few miles away, which was a smashing defeat for the royalists under Prince Rupert of the Rhine. That's King Charles I's nephew, the one who always used to ride into battle with his little dog, Boy, beside him. Well, one time, Boy gallantly dashed into battle and never came back. But Prince Rupert survived the war, went on to be Lord High Admiral. So another significant event, you should watch this one on YouTube, the last royal wedding here, 1961. There hadn't been a royal wedding for centuries in the city of York, when Her Majesty the Queen's cousin got married. Goodness, was it the Duke of Kent? I think so. He married a local woman. She was 28, considered very old for a royal bride, and that was a fabulous event here. I wish they'd do another royal wedding up here. So if you do visit the United Kingdom, York is very worth visiting. Too many people only stay in the Thames Valley. This is a much more manageable size, only about 200,000 people in the city. The city centre is largely pedestrianised, it's easy to walk around. They've got walls dating back to the Middle Ages. They've got ancient Roman artifacts, they've got ghost tours. You can take a little cruise on the river. It's the confluence of two rivers, the River Great Ouse and the River... I'm so ashamed, it slipped my mind at the moment. So this is York Minster. Do go in. Unfortunately I've got arrived there just too late, and there's plenty of fabulous artwork in there, so much to see, and just so much detail my camera can't pick up. Lots of gargoyles up high so to ward off wicked spirits. Numberless Latin inscriptions. There used to be an abbey hard by, as in where monks would live, and a chapter house where a chapter of the Bible read to them each day. So many scintillating tours to take. York, don't miss it.